Flaneur is an observer of urban life in the era of modernity. Traditionally, flaneur is a male who is a middle-class bystander and is invisible in or to the crowd. As for female flaneur, historically, they are perceived as negative as women are usually at home. If women wander in the streets, they are seen as prostitutes, widows, or poor. It is until the late 19th century, due to the uprise of industrialization and commercialization, that female flaneurs are accepted. However, female flaneurs, are also traditionally perceived as white women. This documentary looks at the biracial and non-native flaneurs' experience in the streets. Are they as safe, free, and invisible as the flaneurs? If not, what do they need to do in order to move around such space? We have interviewed two flaneurs about their experience in moving around the streets of today's societies. We also looked at the experience of two flaneurs in transatlantic modernist literature that were written in the 1920s and 1930s. Good Morning Midnight by Jean Rhys and Passing by Nella Larsen. Our first interviewee was born in San Francisco. Her parents immigrated from Hong Kong to San Francisco in the 90s. When asked about her experience growing up in San Francisco and passing in the streets of the metropolis, she said,
"In terms of my identity, I've definitely felt alienated because as a first gen, a lot of my peers that were Asian did not see me as their equal because I was too white to hang out with them, but I was also too Asian to hang out with the white people. You know, there are definitely parts of San Francisco I don't walk around due to safety, like the Tenderloin, for instance. I probably wouldn't walk around there at night."
Similarly, Sasha in Good Morning Midnight is also alienated and unwelcomed as a British strolling around the streets of Paris.
Still, it is a hard thing to do, walking around when you're like this.
Sasha's looks and appearance suggest that she is different and causes her to be visible to others, and hence the discrimination in the streets of Paris.
And he gives my hat a gloomy, disapproving look. I don't blame him. It shows anglaise, my hat, and my dress extinguishes me. And then this damned old fur coat slung on top of everything else. The last idiocy, the last incongruity.
This contrasts vastly with the flaneur, who is basically invisible in the streets.
At no moment did they see that I watched him.
On the other hand, the other protagonist, Irene in Passing, successfully subverts the dichotomy of white and non-white through a strategy of subversion in what Homi Bhabha describes as mimicry and what Jean Shepherd describes as strategy of resistance to escape racism. Irene is an African-American who resides in Chicago. She remains invisible in the public space as she passes herself as white. In this case, she is not considered as others. Her soliloquy demonstrates the subversion of the inferior Negro and the superior white.
White people are so stupid about such things for all that they usually asserted that they were able to tell, and by the most ridiculous means, fingernails, palms of hands, shape of ears, teeth, and other equally silly rot. They always took me for an Italian, a Spaniard, a Mexican, or a gypsy. Never when I was alone had they even remotely seemed to suspect that I was a Negro.
Likewise, our second interviewee also has a positive experience moving around the streets of Hong Kong. She was born in Nepal and moved to Hong Kong 27 years ago in 1994. She thinks it is easy to pass the streets of Hong Kong.
I'm always good because I speak Cantonese also. It's really helpful. Really helpful. If you know Cantonese, all over wherever you go, you feel very much easier, confidence. You know, I know also Cantonese. It's very confidence when we speak and feel very happy.
Through mimicry, regardless of essentially learning the language or imitating the race of the dominant and the superior, the non-native flaneurs are able to pass the streets safely and freely. They have successfully destabilized the dichotomy of gender and race in the case of flaneurs.